I never imagined Mother's Day, the one day meant to honor a mother's love, would be the day my heart cracked open. It started softly, almost gently, the way storms sometimes do. The sun was setting outside my small apartment, the one I could barely afford after my husband passed, and I was finishing cooking lentil soup for myself. It was simple, but it was enough for an old woman like me. My phone buzzed on the table. It was my son Daniel, my millionaire son, the same boy I raised with nothing but my hands, my hope, and the few coins I scraped together washing clothes for neighbors. He almost never called. So when he did, a mother's heart can't help but leap. "Mom," he said, his voice too calm. "Clara and I want to visit you. Today." I froze. Mother's Day. And they wanted to visit me? A part of me bloomed inside. Like I was still the young mother who used to wait by the window for her boy to come home from school. I cleaned the apartment quickly, wiped the table, straightened the sofa, lit the small candle my granddaughter gave me years ago. When they finally knocked and walked in, Daniel gave me a tight, polite hug. The kind you give a stranger you recognize but don't really know. Clara, my daughter-in-law, looked around the apartment with her usual disapproval, her eyes roaming over my old curtains, the mended cushions, the chipped plates. Then Daniel sat across from me, folded his hands, and asked, "Mom, do you like the $5,000 Clara gives you every month?" My stomach dropped. $5,000? Clara had never given me a single rupee. Not a single dollar. Not a single coin. For a moment I thought he was joking. I laughed nervously. But his face didn't change. That was the moment. The exact second, I felt something cold crawl up my spine, a hook of fear. Because I knew immediately. My son believed something that wasn't true. Something Clara told him. Something big enough to hurt me. I didn't know it yet, but that one simple question, that one innocent sentence, would uncover a lie Clara had been feeding my son for years. A lie that made him think I was living comfortably, while in reality I was surviving on instant noodles, coupons, and prayers. And worse, this lie would soon expose something even darker. Clara's real plan for me. I swallowed, trying to keep my voice steady. "Daniel Beta, what $5,000? He blinked, then forced a smile. "Come on, Mom. Don't be shy. Clara told me you didn't want me to know because you didn't want me to feel obligated. But it's okay. I'm grateful she takes care of you." My heart, my old tired heart, ached. I looked at Clara. She didn't blink. She didn't shift. She didn't even look guilty. Just a slight smirk at the corner of her lips, as if she enjoyed the moment. "Mom," Daniel said again, softer, "tell me the truth. Should I increase it?" Increase it? Increase something I never received at all. I felt my throat close. If I stayed silent, Clara would keep lying. If I spoke the truth, Daniel would be hurt. But a mother's heart never chooses herself. It always chooses her child. So I said it. "Daniel, I never got anything." He froze. Clara's smile stiffened. "I only get the little you send me on holidays," I continued. "Nothing else. I'm not angry. I just don't want you to believe something that isn't true." Silence. Heavy, thick, painful silence. Daniel looked at Clara. "Clara, what is she talking about?" Clara laughed lightly, too lightly. "Oh honey, she's just embarrassed. She begged me not to tell you." "I never begged," I interrupted gently. Her eyes snapped toward me. Cold. Sharp. Dangerous. Daniel's confusion slowly turned into suspicion. "You said you transfer money to her every month," he told Clara. "You said you set up automatic payments." Clara lifted her chin. "I do." "Then show me," he said. Her face paled. Just a moment. But I saw it. I saw the truth cracking through. Daniel took her phone. And what he discovered inside. It didn't just expose Clara's lie. It exposed her entire plan for me. A plan that had already begun. A plan that involved my home, my bank account, and even my future living arrangements. And trust me, that wasn't even the worst part. Daniel held Clara's phone in his hand like it was a burning coal. Something too hot to touch, but too important to drop. Clara reached for it immediately. "Daniel, stop. Don't invade my privacy." But Daniel stepped back. "Password," he said quietly. Her jaw tightened. "No." Daniel's face changed. He wasn't the boy I raised anymore. He wasn't the playful child who used to hide behind my sorry, peeking out with innocent eyes. He was a man. A father. Someone who had built an empire with his bare hands. Now, he was someone whose trust had just been shaken. Clara, he repeated, voice dangerously calm. Password. She crossed her arms. You don't trust me? Daniel didn't blink. I want to verify something. There was a long, tense silence. Finally, Clara muttered numbers under her breath. Daniel unlocked her screen. I stood there frozen. One trembling old woman watching her son's world tilt, knowing it was because of a lie told about me. Daniel tapped through her banking app. My heart pounded like it would burst. And then, his face hardened. He turned the phone toward Clara. There are no transfers to my mother, he said flatly. Not one. Not a single payment. For years. Clara's lips parted slightly, panic slipping through her mask. I can explain. But Daniel wasn't done. He opened a folder labeled simply, Mother-in-law Plan. My stomach turned. Inside were documents, spreadsheets, notes, screenshots, everything neatly organized, everything about me. And then I saw it, a line that almost made me collapse. Goal. Move her into care facility within 3 months. Cost. $1,500 per month. Sell her apartment belongings. Stop unnecessary spending on her. Unnecessary. Unnecessary. Was I unnecessary now? But the next thing I saw wasn't just a plan to send me to a nursing home. It was a message Clara never meant anyone to read. A message about money. About inheritance. About something she needed Daniel to believe. And it was about to destroy our family. Daniel scrolled down. And his face turned white. There it was. A fake expense list Clara showed him every month. Taxis for me. Grocery bills for me. Medical treatments for me. Cash transfers to me. All lies. All fabricated. Clara tried to snatch the phone again. Stop, she shouted. You're misinterpreting. Clara, Daniel said. Why? That one word. So soft. So broken. She swallowed hard. And then, she tried to flip the story. Your mother is manipulating you, she hissed. She wants to ruin us. She hates me. She's lying to you. I stepped back. Her words hit me like stones. I never lied, I whispered. I never asked for anything. But Clara wasn't done. She pointed a finger at me like I was the criminal. She wastes your money. She made me cover it up so you wouldn't be stressed. I tried to protect you. Daniel closed his eyes. You told me she was living comfortably, he said. You told me she had a cleaner, a caretaker, and new TV supplements. None of it is true. Clara's voice shook. I did it for us. You always say we're tight financially. Daniel stared at her in disbelief. Tight? Clara, I earn over $2 million a year. Silence. Cold silence. My legs wobbled. He earns that much. And yet an old mother, lived counting coins for bread? The embarrassment, the hurt, the shock. It all washed over me. Daniel turned to me suddenly, eyes full of pain. Mom, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I touched his arm gently. I believe you, Beta. Mothers always believe. Just when I thought the worst was over, Daniel opened one last message thread. And that single conversation revealed what Clara had truly been planning for me. It wasn't just about money. It wasn't just about the nursing home. It was something far darker. And it involved my son's signature. Daniel opened the chat titled, Senior Care Manager, Contract Discussion. Inside were messages from Clara. Yes, my husband will sign the admission contract. No, his mother doesn't need to know. Just tell her it's a temporary medical stay. I'll bring her there myself. Have everything ready by June. June. Next month. I felt my breath leave my chest. She wanted to trick me, lie to me, drag me into a facility and leave me there. Without telling Daniel. Without telling anyone. Daniel clenched his jaw so tight I heard it crack. You were going to put my mother away, he whispered. Clara stuttered. You're so busy. She's old. She's fragile. It's better if professionals. Stop, he snapped. The room went ice cold. I trusted you with my mother, he said. I trusted you to care for her when I couldn't. And you. His voice broke. You treated her like a burden. Clara stepped back, crying, but her tears felt hollow. It was for us, she pleaded. I was doing it for our future. Your mother would slow us down. Daniel shouted so loudly the walls shook. That woman raised me alone. My heart shattered at the sound. He looked at me then. Really looked. And for the first time in years, I saw my little boy again. The boy who used to run home with muddy shoes, shouting, "Amy, I got first place." He reached for my hands, trembling. "Forgive me, Mom," he whispered. Before I could reply, Clara ran out the door. And that was only the beginning of the storm. Because when Clara left the apartment, she didn't leave quietly. She left with a message, a threat, promise, and it would soon become clear. She wasn't done with us yet. Not by a long shot. Clara didn't just walk out the door. She stormed out, heels slamming against the parquet floor, hair whipping behind her, fury burning so hot it left a trail behind her. The door slammed hard enough that one of the picture frames rattled and fell sideways. Daniel flinched. I stayed silent. Because I knew something my son didn't yet understand. Person like Clara doesn't lose quietly, doesn't retreat peacefully, doesn't allow their lies to collapse without trying to drag someone else into the rubble. And the old mother they thought was weak, I was now standing right in her line of fire. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, pacing back and forth like a trapped animal. "Mom, I can't believe this," he muttered. "She lied to me about you. About everything." I touched his shoulder gently. "It's not your fault, Beta. People show their true colors eventually." He stopped moving, turned toward me. "Mom, what she did to you. I'll never forgive myself." I smiled softly even though my heart felt bruised. "You didn't do anything wrong." But he didn't believe me. Not fully. Not yet. Before Daniel could say anything else, Clara did something that shocked both of us. She came back. But not alone. Not quietly. Not remorsefully. She returned with people. And what she planned to do next, it would change everything. We heard the elevator doors slam open on our floor. Then loud voices. Quick footsteps. A harsh knock at the door. "Daniel!" Clara shouted from the hallway. "Open the door." Daniel stiffened immediately. "I don't want a scene," he muttered. "But she's already making one." He opened the door only halfway. But Clara shoved it wide open. She wasn't crying anymore. No. She was angry. Fuming. And behind her stood two men. Big, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing black polo shirts. Daniel's eyes widened. "Who are they?" Clara folded her arms smugly. "Security. They're here to protect me." "From what?" Daniel snapped. Clara pointed at me. "From her." My heart sank. Me? An old woman with thinning hair and trembling knees? A threat big enough for hired guards? Daniel exploded. "Clara, what is wrong with you?" She didn't blink. "She stole my bracelet." "What?" My jaw dropped. "Bracelet? Stolen?" I looked down at my wrinkled hands. There wasn't even a ring on my finger. I own nothing expensive. Nothing shiny. Nothing worth stealing. I whispered, "Clara, I would never." "Save it," she snapped. She held out her phone. On the screen was a blurry photo of something silver on a bathroom counter. A bracelet. Her bracelet. "I put it there," she said coldly. "And now it's gone." Daniel threw his hands up. "Do you hear yourself? Mom isn't a thief." Clara shrugged. "Then why is it missing?" "She's the only one who used that bathroom today." Daniel opened his mouth. But then one of the guards stepped forward. Sir, if there's a theft complaint, we're legally required to search. Daniel glared at them. You are not searching my mother. The guard held his hands up calmly. Sir, your wife requested. She's not my wife anymore if she keeps this up. Daniel roared. Clara's face twitched. But she wasn't giving up. Daniel, she took it, she hissed. I saw her walking out of the bathroom right after. I shook my head slowly. I washed my hands, Clara. That's all. Her eyes narrowed at me, sharp and cold. You're very good at playing innocent, she spat. But then Daniel said something. Something that turned the whole argument upside down. He asked Clara one question. A simple question. And it exposed a truth she never intended to reveal. Clara, Daniel said carefully, where did you even get that bracelet? She froze. Just for a second. Just long enough for Daniel to notice. Why does it matter? She snapped. Daniel looked her dead in the eyes. Because I didn't buy it. Silence. Clara's jaw tightened. Daniel continued. Your spending has been weird lately. Too many gifts. Too many expensive things. Things I didn't approve. Clara scoffed. So I can't buy myself anything now? Not jewelry worth $5,000, Daniel said coldly. You've been dipping into accounts you're not supposed to touch. Her eyes flashed. You're checking my accounts now? Daniel shook his head in disbelief. You lied about taking care of my mom. You lied about transferring her money. You lied about putting her in a facility. And now you're trying to accuse her of theft. Clara growled through clenched teeth. She did take it. I know she did. Daniel stepped protectively in front of me. My mother doesn't even wear jewelry. That's exactly why she stole it. Clara screamed. Her logic broke into pieces like shattered glass. The guard shifted uncomfortably. Ma'am, one said quietly, we can't proceed with any accusation unless you have proof. Clara's face turned red with fury. Fine, she hissed. Then I'll get proof. She stormed out again. The guards followed her. The elevator door slammed shut. And just like that, she was gone. But not in defeat. No, in preparation. Daniel sighed and rubbed his temples. I can't believe this is happening. Mom, promise me you didn't take anything. I touched his cheek gently, swallowing my hurt. Beta, the only things I've ever taken were your tears when you cried as a child. Daniel's eyes softened. He hugged me tightly. Mom, I swear she won't hurt you again. But I knew better. Clara wasn't done. Clara was planning something bigger. And the next day, we found out exactly what. Because the very next morning, we woke up to police knocking on the door. Someone had filed a theft report. And the listed suspect was me. The knock at the door came at 7:12 a.m. Sharp, cold, authoritative. Not the knock of a neighbor. Not the hesitant tap of someone delivering a parcel. No, it was the knock of law enforcement. Daniel froze mid-step. I was standing near the kitchen counter, holding a cup of tea that suddenly felt too heavy for my trembling hands. 3 more knocks. Open up. Police. My heart sank into my stomach. Daniel rushed to the door, his voice tense. 1 second. I'm coming. He opened it. 2 officers stood in the hallway, both wearing dark uniforms, both serious, both holding tablets. One of them looked at Daniel. Sir, we received a report of theft filed at this address. Daniel's face went pale. The words hit me like a slap. The officer continued. Stolen item. A silver bracelet valued at approximately $5,000. He glanced down at his tablet. Suspect listed, your mother. I covered my mouth with my hand. Daniel stepped forward immediately. This is a misunderstanding, he said quickly. This is an outright lie. The officer nodded politely. We're not here to arrest anyone. We just need statements. Statements. But even that felt like humiliation. The officer stepped inside. Daniel guided them to the living room. Mom, he whispered, just sit. Don't worry. I won't let them treat you badly. I nodded, but my hands were trembling. Not from fear. From heartbreak. Before I could even speak, one of the officers said something that revealed exactly who filed the report. And it wasn't just Clara. It was someone else too. Someone I never expected. Officer Ramirez looked at his notes. The complaint was filed by Mrs. Clara Williams and co-signed by another family member. Daniel blinked. Family member? Who? The officer scrolled. She listed someone named Grace. My breath hitched. Grace. My daughter. My sweet daughter. My quiet daughter. My gentle daughter. Why would she sign anything with Clara? Daniel exploded. What? Grace doesn't even talk to Clara. They don't even get along. Officer Ramirez shrugged. All I know is the signature matches. And she confirmed over the phone. Daniel rubbed his forehead. This doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense. I felt my throat tighten. What was happening? Did my own daughter believe I would steal? My chest ached deeply, painfully. Not because of the bracelet accusation, but because Grace, my own blood, had signed her name on something that painted me as a thief. Why? Why would she do that? The second officer, a woman with kind eyes, sat across from me. Ma'am, we're not here to judge you, she said softly. We just need your statement. I nodded. My voice was shaky when I finally spoke. I didn't take anything. I don't wear jewelry. I don't own anything worth stealing. She nodded slowly. Did you use the bathroom where the bracelet was last seen? Yes, I whispered. I washed my hands. Did you see any bracelet there? No. She made a note. Daniel growled under his breath. This is ridiculous. My mother is innocent. The officer asked gently. Has there been any conflict between you and your daughter-in-law recently? I almost laughed. But my laugh would have turned into tears. Yes, I said softly. She's been lying to my son about taking care of me. The officer raised an eyebrow. And your daughter? Have you had any conflict with her lately? I shook my head. Not at all. That was what hurt the most. Grace and I rarely fought. She was always the mild one, the easy one. Why would she put her name next to Clara's? Why would she help hurt me? The officers finished their notes. Thank you, ma'am. We'll follow up soon. Daniel escorted them to the door. But before they left, Officer Ramirez paused. Sir, one more thing. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Ramirez turned the tablet around. This is the security footage your wife submitted from your hallway camera. He pressed play. The footage showed me walking down the hallway after leaving the bathroom, holding a tissue in my hand. And for a split second, the camera angle made it look like something small dropped from my palm into my sweater pocket. The officer said quietly, She claims that was the bracelet. Daniel slapped his forehead. That's a tissue. She's twisting the footage. The officer shrugged. We don't make assumptions, sir. We just record facts. They left. As the door closed, Daniel let out a scream of pure frustration. Damn it. I sat on the couch silent. My tea had gone cold. My body felt heavy. The weight wasn't from the police. It wasn't from Clara's lies. It was from Grace's signature. My own child. The betrayal stung like fresh cuts on skin. Daniel dropped beside me. Mom, I'll fix this. I swear. I nodded, but inside a storm was forming. As I knew, Clara wasn't working alone anymore. She had recruited someone from my bloodline, and that meant the fight was no longer just between me and Clara. It was now between mother and daughter. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, Daniel's phone buzzed. A message from Grace. And the moment he read it, he stood up so fast the couch shook. His face turned dark. He shoved the phone toward me. Mom, look what she said. I took the phone with trembling fingers. The message read, Daniel, Mom has been stealing for years. You're just finding out now. Clara told me everything. I have proof. My blood ran cold. Proof. Proof of what? What lies had Clara planted in my daughter's mind? Daniel clenched his fists until they turned white. That's it, he said. I'm going to Grace's house. Now. I grabbed his hand. No, Beta, don't go in anger. But he pulled away gently. I'm not going in anger, Mom. He looked back at me with tears in his eyes. I'm going to find out why my own sister thinks you're a thief. He grabbed his keys, and before I could say another word, he was gone. The door shut, leaving me alone. Alone with my fear. Alone with my daughter's betrayal. Alone with the bitter truth. This wasn't about a bracelet. This was about something deeper. Something Clara wanted. Something Grace believed. And I was at the center of their plan. Because when Daniel reached Grace's house, he didn't just find answers. He found something far more disturbing. Something that proved Grace wasn't lying by accident. She was lying because someone had convinced her that I deserved to be punished. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Clara's words, that strange fear in her eyes, my son's forced smile, the way they kept glancing at each other every time money or my expenses were mentioned. Something was wrong. But what kept echoing in my mind the most was that single horrifying line my son asked me at the Mother's Day table. Mom, do you like the $5,000 Clara gives you? The $5,000 I had never seen. Not once. Not a single rupee. Not a single dollar. Not a single explanation. I lay awake for hours, clutching the hem of my blanket, my heart thudding like an old machine on its last beat. When dawn finally broke, I made a decision. I needed answers. I couldn't keep pretending. I couldn't keep smiling politely. I couldn't keep swallowing my confusion like medicine. I had raised my son to be honest, to be transparent, to take responsibility. So why was he hiding something from me now? Around 10 a.m., I heard someone at my door. A soft knock. Cautious, like the person didn't want to wake a monster. When I opened it, I froze. It was Clara. Her face was pale, her usually perfect makeup barely holding together. She was holding a large brown envelope with both hands trembling. Mom, she whispered. Can I come in? I stepped aside. She didn't sit. She didn't look around. She didn't even blink. She just held out the envelope. This is yours. I frowned. What is this, Clara? Her voice cracked. It's the truth. I can't keep doing this anymore. My stomach tightened. I didn't open it right away. I looked at her. Really looked at her. And I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Fear. Real fear. Clara, I said softly, what's happening? And then, she burst into tears. She sank onto my sofa, burying her face in her hands. I didn't want this. I swear I didn't want this. What? What didn't you want? She looked up, her mascara streaked. Your son, Her voice trembled uncontrollably. He told me to hide it from you. My blood went cold. Hide what? The money. I blinked. The room felt too still. Too quiet. Like the entire world paused to hear what she was about to say. You were supposed to receive $5,000 every month since last year. I stared at her. Last year? 12 months? That was $60,000. Clara, I whispered. I never received a single penny. Her shoulders slumped like she had been carrying a mountain. I know, she whispered. That's the problem. She pushed the envelope toward me again. Inside, I found heavy checkmark bank statements, heavy checkmark transfer receipts, heavy checkmark screenshots of messages, heavy checkmark signed agreements, heavy checkmark and a letter from my own son. A letter addressed to me, but never delivered. My fingers shook as I unfolded it. It was written in my son's handwriting, but the words felt like knives. Mom, I'm depositing $5,000 to your caregiver account each month. Clara is in charge of making sure you get it. Please use it for yourself, don't save it for us. Caregiver account. Caregiver. That meant he believed someone was taking care of me. But no one was. I lived alone. By myself. Sometimes struggling, rationing, cutting corners, while believing my children were simply too busy. But, according to this letter, he thought I was comfortable. He thought I was financially supported. He thought I was safe. Clara covered her face and cried harder. I'm so sorry, your son trusted me, and I failed you both. I felt dizzy. I felt like the floor beneath me wasn't solid anymore. Where is the money now? I whispered. She squeezed her eyes shut. My brother. She swallowed. We had debt. Bad debt. And your son, he gave me access. I thought I could replace it before anyone found out, but it got worse. My throat tightened. You stole my support money? She nodded. I know I'm horrible. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I came here because something worse is happening. I braced myself. What do you mean worse? Clara wiped her face, inhaling shakily. Your son. He thinks you're too old to live alone. My chest tightened. Too old? I still cooked. I still cleaned. I still walked to the market on my own. I still lived normally. Why would he think that? I whispered. She lifted trembling eyes to mine. Because I told him. Silence. Cold, sharp silence. Why? I asked, barely breathing. She broke down again. I panicked. When he asked why you weren't spending the money, why you didn't look healthier, why nothing changed, I told him maybe you weren't, capable of managing things anymore. I felt like she had slapped me. So he believed you? Yes. And he told me. She swallowed hard. He told me that after Mother's Day, we needed to have a serious conversation about moving you somewhere safer. Safer. I repeated. Do you mean? She nodded slowly. A nursing home. My heart cracked. My own son. My only boy. Thinking I was incapable, weak, declining because someone else lied and stole and created an illusion around me. I swear I didn't want that, Clara cried. I just didn't know how to fix what I'd done. I lowered my eyes. For a moment, I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The betrayal from both sides, accidental or intentional, felt like a tidal wave hitting me all at once. But I had to ask the next question. Why tell me now? She wiped her cheeks. Because your son made the appointment. I froze. What appointment? Her voice broke. The one to move you into the care facility. Next week. Next week. Next week. Next week. The words echoed through my skull like thunder. My son, my boy, was ready to lock me away, based on a lie created by the person standing in front of me, crying at my living room table. Clara took my hand gently. You have 1 week before he comes with the paperwork. She looked away ashamed. I thought you deserved to know. At that moment, something inside me changed. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to collapse. And I definitely wasn't going to let anyone decide my fate for me. No. I sat up straighter. My heartbeat steadied. A new fire lit inside me. Clara, I said quietly, I appreciate your honesty, but now you have to help me fix this. She blinked in shock. Help you? Yes. I didn't hesitate. You created this mess. Now you help me undo it. She swallowed. What do you want me to do? I looked down at the envelope, at the letter, at the evidence, at the truth. I knew exactly what needed to happen next. We're going to talk to my son. Her eyes widened. Today. Yes, I said firmly. Today. She inhaled sharply. But what will happen? What if he gets angry? What if? He deserves to know the truth, I interrupted. And I deserve my dignity back. Clara looked at me like she couldn't believe my strength. But she didn't know. She didn't know what a mother becomes when her child's trust is on the line. I stood up. For months, I whispered. I lived thinking my children were simply busy. Meanwhile, my son lived thinking I was falling apart. Clara nodded slowly. I know, and I'm so sorry, Mom. I lifted the envelope. This ends today. Clara sat on my sofa, still shaking, still unable to look me in the eyes. I held the thick brown envelope against my chest, as if it were my shield. Clara, I said quietly, we're going to speak to him now. She swallowed hard. Mom, I don't know if I can. You can, I replied, my voice sharper than usual. You must. She blinked rapidly, then nodded as though she were bracing for a storm. I grabbed my bag, slipped the envelope inside, and straightened my shawl. My fingers trembled, but something inside me felt firm. My son needed to hear the truth from me. Not through whispers, not through lies, not through someone else's guilt, but from his mother. When we stepped outside, the air felt heavier than usual. Even the morning breeze couldn't cool the heat burning in my chest. Clara stayed a step behind me like a child walking after a teacher. I knew she felt guilty. I knew she felt ashamed. But this wasn't about punishment. This was about my life. We took a taxi to my son's office, a tall glass building that made me feel small before I even stepped inside. Clara hesitated at the entrance. Mom, maybe we shouldn't do this here. What if his coworkers see? Good, I murmured. Maybe someone needs to witness a piece of the truth today. We entered. The receptionist recognized me immediately. Mrs. Haniff, what a surprise. Your son is in a meeting. Tell him his mother is here, I said calmly. And it's urgent. She blinked, startled by the firmness in my tone. then hurriedly dialed his extension. Moments later, my son rushed out of a glass conference room, his tie slightly crooked, his expression worried. "Mom? Is everything okay? Why didn't you call?" I stared at him, at the man I raised, at the boy I once carried to school because he cried when his shoes were too tight, at the child who used to bring me flowers made of straws and tissue paper. Now he was a stranger who believed I needed to be put away. Clara stepped aside awkwardly. "Let's talk in your office," I said. He immediately nodded. "Of course." He closed the door, then turned to me with real concern. "Mom, what's wrong? You look so serious." I sat down slowly. Clara remained standing trembling. My son looked between us. "Is everything okay between you two?" I took a deep breath. "Actually, no." He frowned. "What do you mean?" I reached into my bag and placed the envelope on his desk. He blinked. "What's this?" "The truth you didn't know you needed," I whispered. He opened it hesitantly. He saw the bank statements first. The monthly $5,000 deposits. The transfer records. The account designated for my care. I saw his expression change from confusion to shock to disbelief. Then he saw the letter he wrote to me months ago, the one Clara never delivered. His face went pale. "Mom, He looked at Clara sharply. "What is this? What am I looking at?" Clara burst into tears instantly. "I'm sorry." My son slammed his hand on the desk. "Sorry for what?" Clara stuttered. I didn't tell her about the money. I didn't give it to her. I used it for my brother's debts." My son stood completely still, like his brain shut down for a second. Then he shouted, not angrily but in shock, "Clara, this is $60,000. She nodded, sobbing. "I know. I thought I could replace it." "Replace it?" he repeated, stunned. "With what? Fairy dust? Wishes? How could you hide this from me? How could you lie about my mother's condition?" Clara covered her face. "I panicked. When you asked why she wasn't using the money, I panicked and told you maybe she couldn't manage it anymore." He stared at her. Then he turned to me, eyes filled with pain. "Mom, is that why you've been living so quietly? Why you seem like you were struggling? Why you never bought anything new?" I nodded softly. "Yes, Beta." He covered his face with his hands. "Oh God. Oh God, Mom, I thought you were saving it. I thought you were being disciplined. I thought." He choked. "I thought Clara was helping you." I placed my hand on his arm. "You didn't know," I said gently. But he shook his head violently. "No. I should have checked. I should have visited more. I should have cared enough to notice." His voice broke. But instead, I believed what I was told. He took a step back, struggling to breathe. Then he whispered, "Is it true? Are you really okay? You're not sick? You're not losing memory? You're not?" "I'm perfectly fine," I replied calmly. "I cook. I clean. I walk. I manage my home. I'm healthier than ever." He stared at me. "But Clara told me." "Yes," I interrupted. "She told you I was declining." His voice shook. That's why I started researching care facilities. That's why I scheduled the appointment next week." Clara cried harder. "I know," she whispered. "I told her everything." He looked at her with a mixture of fury and betrayal. "You lied to both of us." She nodded silently. My son turned to me suddenly, eyes filled with something raw. Mom, I'm so sorry. He knelt in front of me, his hands trembling as he held mine. I should have come to you. I should have asked you directly. I should have never trusted anyone else with your life. I gently stroked his hair. You're my son. I know your heart. He shook his head. But that doesn't excuse what almost happened. If Clara hadn't told you today, I would have walked into your home next week thinking I was doing the right thing by moving you into a facility. He looked devastated. Clara whispered, I'm sorry. I had to tell her. I couldn't let that happen. My son stood slowly. Clara, you need to leave. She gasped. What? No, please. I need to speak to my mother alone. His voice was firm. She hesitated, then grabbed her purse and rushed out of the office. He sat beside me, quieter now. Mom, what do you want me to do? I sighed. That depends on you, Beta. You deserve everything, he murmured. Everything I thought I was giving you. He rubbed his forehead. I should have known something was wrong when you refused to visit during holidays. I thought maybe you were just tired. I didn't think. His voice cracked again. I didn't think you were struggling alone. I took a long, steadying breath. I wasn't struggling with money, I said softly. I was struggling with loneliness. His head snapped up. Loneliness. Yes, I whispered. You sent money. But I needed your presence more than anything. I needed your calls, your visits, even 10 minutes of your time. His shoulders collapsed. Mom, I'm sorry, he whispered. I've been so caught up with work, life stress, excuses. I squeezed his hand. I don't need your money. I need my son. He swallowed deeply. You have him. I promise. Then he looked at me seriously. Mom, what do you want to do about Clara? I inhaled slowly. That was the next decision I had to make. And it wouldn't be easy. The office felt heavier after Clara had left. I could still hear the echo of her crying, and the faint rustle of her hurried steps down the hall. My son looked at me with a mixture of guilt, anger, and fear. His hands were trembling slightly as he ran them through his hair. Mom, I don't even know where to start, he whispered. I leaned back in the chair, holding his gaze. Start with the truth, I said softly. That's always the best place to begin. He nodded, taking a deep breath. Mom, I believed Clara. I thought she was protecting you. I didn't even consider that she could be lying or manipulating me. And he stopped, shaking his head. You trusted her, I said gently. And that's not your fault. But now we must fix this together. At that moment his phone buzzed. He glanced at it quickly. His face froze. It's Grace, he whispered. She's calling again. I swallowed hard. Beta, don't answer it, I said softly. She might still be under Clara's influence. But he hesitated. His hand hovered over the screen. Mom, I have to hear her side too, he said quietly. I need to know why she signed that report. I nodded slowly. Just be careful, Beta. Remember, words can hurt more than fists sometimes. He pressed accept. Grace's voice came through. She sounded anxious, panicked even. Daniel. Mom. I didn't know what to do. Grace, he interrupted firmly. We know about the report. Why did you sign it? A long silence. I thought it was for Mom's safety. Clara told me she was taking care of her, and that that Mom wasn't managing her finances. I didn't know she would lie to you like that. I listened quietly. Her voice was trembling. Grace, I said softly, your mother is not weak. Your mother is strong. And she doesn't need anyone to protect her from her own children. What Clara told you was a lie. I could hear her catch her breath. I'm sorry, Mom, Grace whispered. I didn't mean to. You were tricked, I interrupted gently. But now you know the truth. And it's your choice to stand with me or not. I turned to my son. Beta, Clara will come back. And when she does, we must be ready. His eyebrows knit. What do you mean, Mom? We will confront her together, I said firmly. No yelling, no accusations. Just truth, evidence, and dignity. He nodded. Mom, you're braver than I thought, he said softly. I smiled, but my heart was racing, because I knew Clara wouldn't go down without a fight, and she might try to manipulate Grace again, or twist the story further. We had to be prepared. Later that afternoon, Clara returned. She knocked softly this time, hesitantly, as if she already knew she was walking into a trap. Come in, I said calmly. She stepped inside, avoiding eye contact. My son followed behind me. I gestured for her to sit. Clara sank into the chair, hands folded nervously in her lap. I took a deep breath. Clara, you need to explain everything. All of it. From the beginning. Her eyes filled with tears again. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I made a mistake. I leaned forward. Clara, mistakes can be forgiven. But lies that hurt your family, must be corrected. She nodded, swallowing hard. I'll do anything to make it right, she whispered. Over the next hour, Clara confessed everything. Heavy check marked the hidden money. Heavy check marked the false stories about my health. Heavy check marked the manipulations toward Grace. Heavy check marked the false police report. Each revelation hit me like a hammer, but I stayed calm. I wanted to show my son the full picture. I wanted him to see why I never acted hastily. And I wanted Grace to understand the weight of her choices. When she finished, I looked at my son. Beta, this is why your mother is strong. We never acted in anger. We observed. We waited. And now we have the truth. He exhaled slowly, his eyes wet. I can't believe it, he said softly. She almost destroyed our family. I nodded. But now she won't, I said. Because we are together. And truth always wins. Just when I thought it was over, Grace walked in. Her face pale. Eyes wide. I heard everything, she whispered. I don't know what to say. I stood, walking toward her slowly. Grace, what matters is that you understand now. And you make the right choice. She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. I will. I promise, Mom. I will never let Clara lie to me again. I pulled her into a gentle embrace. And for the first time in weeks, the house felt safe. Clara stayed quietly in the living room as we sat together. No words were exchanged at first. Only silence. Only understanding. Then my son turned to me. Mom, we need to make sure this never happens again, he said softly. I nodded. Yes. We'll set boundaries. We'll communicate clearly. And we'll protect our family from lies. Clara swallowed, ashamed. I understand, she whispered. I gave her a calm nod. And one more thing, I said, looking at my son. Beta, always trust your mother. Because mothers see the truth, even when others try to hide it. He smiled faintly, a mix of relief and gratitude. I promise, Mom, he said. And I knew at that moment that even though this journey had been painful, our family would survive. We were stronger now, and truth had finally won. The house felt different after the confrontation. It was quieter yet heavier, like the walls themselves were absorbing every word spoken, every confession made, every tear shed. Clara sat across the room, shoulders slumped, eyes fixed on the floor. My son Daniel was next to me, still trying to process everything. His fingers drummed nervously against the armrest, and I sat in my chair holding the brown envelope, feeling the weight of truth, but also a strange sense of calm. At last the lies had been exposed. The manipulations had been revealed. But now we had a new challenge: rebuilding trust. I turned to Daniel. Beta, we must set rules, I said softly but firmly. Clara cannot manipulate anyone again. Grace cannot be swayed by lies. And you must protect your mother from false narratives. Daniel nodded. I know, Mom, he said quietly. But what if she tries again? What if Clara lies once more? I took a deep breath. Then we deal with it together. Always together. Clara finally lifted her head. Her voice was barely audible. I will never lie again, she whispered. I'll make it right. I studied her closely. Her face showed genuine remorse, but I knew actions spoke louder than words. Clara, I said calmly, you will show your truth through actions, not promises. We moved next to the financial part, the $5,000 she had hidden each month. Daniel looked at me, his eyes anxious. Mom, what should we do? How do we make this right? I pulled the bank statements from the envelope. Beta, we will track every transaction. We will make sure the money goes where it was meant to go, from now on directly into my account. Clara will no longer have access. Clara nodded. I understand. I'll transfer everything immediately. She took out her phone and began typing, her hands shaking. I felt a flicker of satisfaction. Finally, justice in small steps. But the emotional part was harder. Grace had retreated to the corner of the room, hugging her knees. I stood and walked over. Grace, I said softly, come here. She shook her head. I don't know if I can forgive myself, Mom. I signed that report. I believed Clara. I hurt you. I knelt beside her. Grace, you were tricked. You didn't know. You acted on false information. That is not your fault. Her lips trembled. But Mom, I almost let them put you in a home. I almost believed you weren't capable. I held her shoulders gently. That almost didn't happen. Because truth came out. And because your heart was willing to learn to correct mistakes. That's all that matters now. Her shoulders sagged. I promise, Mom. Never again. For the next hour we worked together. Clara transferred the money back to me. Daniel verified every deposit. Grace apologized and promised to be more discerning in the future. I watched them all, my heart swelling with both relief and lingering pain. It was not easy. It was not simple. But we were taking steps to restore what had been broken. Just as we began to feel a sense of calm, my phone buzzed. A message from Clara. Mom, I received a call from my brother. He's furious. He says he wants the money back and will sue if I don't comply. My heart skipped a beat. Daniel clenched his fists. That's it. No more playing games. She will not manipulate us again. I took a deep breath. Yes, Beta. and we will protect ourselves. Together. Clara looked at me, fear in her eyes. I didn't know what to do. You will follow through, I said calmly. And you will face the consequences. This ends today. Within the next few days, Clara's brother called multiple times, each time angrier than before. But Daniel handled the calls professionally. I sat beside him offering guidance, reminding him that we were armed with truth, evidence, and moral high ground. Finally, the calls stopped. Clara's brother realized we would not be intimidated. We were united. We were strong. We would not let lies dictate our lives. Even with the financial matters settled, there was another layer of trust that needed repair. Grace and I had long conversations, sometimes tearful, sometimes tense, but always honest. Daniel promised to visit more often. Clara accepted her responsibility. I looked at them all and felt a sense of pride. But deep inside, I knew one thing. Life could try to deceive us again. Family could be manipulated again. But as long as truth and love were stronger than lies, we would survive. And in that moment, I realized something vital. Even at my age, even after betrayal, even after deception, a mother's heart could never be defeated. The days that followed were quiet, almost deceptively so. Clara had retreated to her apartment, finally facing the reality of what she had done. She had agreed to fully cooperate in restoring the money, and her phone calls and texts now carried a tone of genuine remorse rather than manipulation. Daniel, my son, was more attentive than ever. He visited daily, asked about my meals, my sleep, and even helped me with the smaller chores I had long handled alone. I watched him, the boy I raised, the man I had trusted, realizing he had grown. But now he was learning humility in ways he never imagined. Grace was also changing. Her initial guilt had transformed into determination. She wanted to prove that she could be trustworthy. I saw her talking to Clara on the phone sometimes, questioning her, making sure she would never hide anything again. And me? I felt lighter. Not because the past was gone, never that, but because I had faced it, confronted it, and emerged stronger. One evening, Daniel came into my room, holding a small envelope. His hands were trembling slightly, and his face was serious. "Mom," he said softly, "I want to make sure something like this never happens again. I set up a new account, fully under your name. Only you can access it." I blinked. "Beta, that's thoughtful. But why now?" He hesitated. "Because I realized money isn't enough. But control over it, respect, and transparency. That's what matters. You shouldn't have to rely on anyone else, Mom. Not even Clara." I took his hands in mine. "Thank you, Beta. That means more than money ever could." He smiled faintly, a mix of relief and newfound respect in his eyes. The following weeks were a period of learning and rebuilding. I held family meetings with Daniel and Grace, teaching them boundaries, trust, and communication. "No more assumptions," I said. "No more hidden information. If something concerns you, you come to me directly." Grace nodded eagerly. "I understand, Mom. I'll never let misinformation influence me again." Daniel added, "And I'll make sure I check facts before reacting. No more blind trust, no more assumptions." Even Clara agreed to certain rules to restore her credibility. "Mom, I know I've lost trust," she said quietly, "but I want to prove I can be honest from now on." I studied her for a long moment. I could see the sincerity in her eyes. "You have a chance to do the right thing, Clara. Don't waste it." Then one afternoon, a message arrived that made my heart skip a beat. It was from an unknown number. I know what Clara did. I want to make sure your family is safe. Call me. Daniel answered cautiously. Mom. It's someone claiming they know about Clara's past. I frowned. Past? What do they mean? It was unclear at first, but I had a feeling this was going to test our strength again. We decided together to hear the person out, but with caution. It turned out Clara had been involved in several manipulations in her own family before. Nothing criminal, but enough to show a pattern of deception. This revelation could have caused panic, fear, and resentment. But instead it became a lesson. Mom, Daniel said, this shows how careful we must be. But it also shows how far we've come. We're stronger now. We won't be blindsided again. I smiled, proud of the growth in my children and myself. Clara agreed to return all the money, not just the hidden $5,000 deposits, but also an additional sum she had previously used for her brother. She came to me kneeling slightly. Mom, I'm so sorry for everything, she said. I understand now the impact of my actions. I'll do anything to make this right. I placed my hand gently on her shoulder. Actions speak louder than words, Clara. Show us through honesty, respect, and transparency. That is all I ask. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Daniel hugged Grace and me, and for the first time in weeks we felt a sense of unity. The tension that had gripped our family was finally easing. Just as the day seemed to end, a knock at the door startled us. It was Clara's brother. He looked angry, but seeing all of us together, Mom, Grace, Daniel, he hesitated. Clara told me everything, he said grudgingly. She showed me the truth. I don't know what to say. Daniel stepped forward, calm but firm. Sir, the past is the past. Clara has made amends. You are free to take legal action if you wish, but we will not be intimidated. We are protecting our family now. He paused, swallowed, and finally nodded. I understand. I'll let this go for now. As he walked away, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. We had faced deception, betrayal, and near destruction, and we had survived. That evening we sat together in the living room. The sun was setting, casting golden light across the room. I looked at my son, my daughter, and even Clara, who now sat quietly, respectful and remorseful. Family, I said softly, is about more than blood. It's about trust, respect, and love. We've faced deception, but we've also found our strength. Never forget this moment. Daniel nodded. Mom, I won't forget. I'll never take our family for granted again. Grace held my hand. Me neither, Mom. I promise. Even Clara, quiet and reserved, looked up. I will try to do right always, she whispered. I smiled, knowing the road ahead would still have challenges. But for the first time in months, our home felt safe, honest, and full of hope. That night, I reflected quietly in my room. I realized something powerful. Even in the face of lies, betrayal, and near heartbreak, a mother's intuition, patience, and courage can save a family. Even when the ones we love make mistakes, we can guide them back to truth. Even when the world seems against us, strength, honesty, and love always prevail. And in that quiet moment, I knew one thing. Our family had been tested, and we had survived stronger than ever. The next morning, I woke up feeling a mixture of exhaustion and relief. Exhaustion from the emotional whirlwind we had lived through, and relief that finally clarity had returned to our lives. I made myself a cup of tea and sat by the window watching the sun rise. Its soft golden light reminded me that even after the darkest nights, a new day always comes. Daniel entered quietly, holding a stack of papers. "Mom, these are the final transfers," he said softly. "All the money has been restored. Clara has no access to your accounts anymore. Everything is under your name." I smiled, a wave of gratitude washing over me. "Beta, this is perfect," I said, my voice calm but firm. "Now we can finally focus on what matters most, family." Later that day, we called Clara to the house. She arrived with a hesitant step, clearly nervous about facing us again. "Sit, Clara," I said calmly. She obeyed. "Clara," I continued, "we've restored the accounts. We've made amends. But there's one thing left, your attitude and respect toward this family. That cannot be bought or transferred." Her lips trembled. I understand, Mom. I will do everything to make it right. I promise." Daniel spoke next, his voice measured but firm. "We've forgiven you financially, but emotional damage takes time. You must prove yourself through actions, not words." Clara nodded, tears in her eyes. "Yes, I will. I understand." Over the next week, the family began to settle into a new rhythm. Daniel visited me daily, helping me with meals, accompanying me on walks, and even sitting quietly with me as we sipped tea and talked about the past. Grace spent more time with me than ever, learning lessons about trust, honesty, and discernment. Clara, though still on probation in my heart, showed genuine remorse and tried to repair her relationships with everyone. She volunteered to help around the house, and her tone and actions gradually became respectful rather than manipulative. I observed quietly, knowing that actions, not promises, would tell me the truth. One afternoon, Daniel called Clara to his office. I overheard him saying, "Clara, we need to set boundaries. You are no longer in control of any decisions regarding Mom's life or finances. If you continue to manipulate, there will be consequences." Clara's soft voice replied, "I understand. I'll follow your guidance completely. I won't interfere again." I smiled softly from the living room. This was the moment that made me realize we had regained control of our lives. No more lies, no more manipulations. Only truth and honesty. That evening, Daniel, Grace, and I sat together in the living room. "Mom," Daniel said, "I finally understand how strong you really are. You taught me patience, wisdom, and the power of truth. I'm ashamed it took me this long to realize it." I reached out, taking his hand in mine. "Beta, you are learning. That's all that matters. Life is full of lessons, some harder than others. But we survive. And we grow stronger." Grace added softly, "Mom, I've learned too. I won't let anyone deceive me again. And I will always stand with you." I felt a warm sense of pride and relief. Our family, once fractured by lies and deceit, was slowly but surely coming together. Just as the sun was setting, there was a knock at the door. Clara entered quietly, holding a small gift wrapped carefully. I want to apologize properly," she said, placing it on the table. I opened it carefully. Inside was a photo album she had made, documenting our family moments, her own memories, and even letters acknowledging her mistakes. This is thoughtful," I said softly. "I wanted to show that I'm taking responsibility, not just with words but with action." Daniel and Grace looked at her, silently acknowledging her effort. I nodded. "Actions speak louder than words, Clara. And this is a start." That night, we sat together for dinner, something we hadn't done properly in months. The table was filled with warmth, laughter, and cautious optimism. Clara's presence was quiet, respectful, and attentive. Daniel spoke. Mom, I've learned an important lesson. Money and appearances mean nothing if the family is not united. We must always communicate, always check facts, and always prioritize each other. Grace nodded in agreement. I smiled softly. Yes, Beta. Love and truth are stronger than anything else. Never forget this. Even Clara seemed moved. She didn't speak much, but I could see in her eyes a glimmer of understanding. Later, as I sat in my room reflecting, I realized something profound. Life had tested us. It had brought lies, betrayal, and near heartbreak. But it had also reminded us of our resilience. Our family's bond was stronger than ever. We had faced deception and survived. And most importantly, we had learned that no one, not even those closest to us, should ever have unchecked control over our lives. I smiled quietly to myself. Even at my age, after decades of living, I realized this. A mother's intuition, patience, and courage can guide a family through even the darkest storms. And in that quiet moment I knew, our family was finally free, strong, and united. The morning sun spilled through the curtains, painting the room in golden light. I sipped my tea slowly, savoring the calm that had finally settled over our household. Months of lies, manipulation, and deceit had passed. The chaos had subsided, and for the first time in what felt like forever, our family could breathe freely. Daniel came into the room carrying a small notebook. Mom, he said softly, I've been thinking. I want to document everything we've learned from this experience, so no one ever forgets what happened, and so we can protect ourselves in the future. I nodded, a faint smile touching my lips. That's a wise idea, Beta. Every lesson, every mistake, every victory, it should be remembered. Grace joined us, sitting quietly on the sofa, her hands folded in her lap. I want to help too, she said. I want to record the truth, not just for us, but for others who might face the same deception. I looked at my children, pride swelling in my chest. They've grown, I thought. They've learned patience, courage, and the power of honesty. I could not be prouder. Just as I was settling back, Clara walked in. She looked different, humble, calmer, almost human in her vulnerability. Mom, she whispered, I wanted to apologize one last time. Not just for the money or the lies, but for breaking the trust of this family. I'll spend my life making sure I never do this again. I studied her carefully. Clara, I said softly, forgiveness is a gift, but it is earned through actions, not words. Show us, don't just tell us. She nodded solemnly, tears in her eyes. I will, Mom. I promise. The next few weeks were dedicated to rebuilding. Daniel and Grace helped me organize the house, ensuring every bill, every account, every decision was clear and transparent. We even held a family council, a weekly meeting to discuss finances, household decisions, and emotional well-being. Clara attended quietly, listening more than speaking, slowly learning the value of honesty and respect. Each day our bond grew stronger. Laughter returned to our home. Tea became a ritual again, and quiet evenings together felt peaceful. One evening, I noticed Grace sitting by herself, staring at an old photograph of our family. I walked over. Grace, I said softly, what are you thinking? She looked up, her eyes glistening. I realized how close we came to losing everything. Mom, if it weren't for you, I don't know what would have happened. I held her hands gently. Beta, I did what any mother would do. But you learned. And that is the most important thing. Never let anyone manipulate your heart or mind. Trust but verify. Love but remain aware. Grace nodded slowly, tears rolling down her cheeks. I promise, Mom. I'll never forget this lesson. Clara had accepted her role. She no longer held sway over the family. Her attempts at manipulation were gone, replaced with a tentative humility. She had returned the money, apologized sincerely, and now understood the power of truth. I watched her from across the room and realized something profound. Even someone who makes grave mistakes can learn. Even someone who causes pain can grow. And even after betrayal, a family can heal if truth, courage, and patience guide them. That night, as I sat alone in the living room, the soft hum of the city outside the window, I reflected on everything. I thought about my life, my children, my grandchildren, the trials I had faced, and the lessons I had learned. I realized that life's greatest power isn't money, status, or control. It's truth, love, and resilience. Even in the face of deceit, even when the ones you love falter, these qualities endure. And with them, a family can survive anything. I thought about my own future. I am older now. I know my time is limited, but I also know I leave behind more than memories. I leave behind strength, wisdom, and the courage to face life's storms. Daniel and Grace will remember these lessons. Clara will remember hers. And perhaps one day they will tell the story to the next generation of a mother who faced betrayal with patience, who demanded truth, who forgave but never forgot, and who ensured that her family emerged stronger, wiser, and united. As the night fell, I sat by the window staring at the stars. I whispered softly, "Life is unpredictable, children are imperfect, and the world can be cruel. But love conquers all. Truth shines brighter than lies, and courage will always find its way." I closed my eyes and breathed in the peace. Our family had survived. Our hearts had healed. And finally, we were truly together.